Do 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 do. Hey, how's it going? It's your lovely host, Key, and you're watching Primitive. And this is episode number 9 of Build in Public, and we're working on the comic panel application. And I just want to thank you really quick for stopping by the channel. It's always a pleasure to see you here, and I just love the energy that we're creating in this community. We're small, but we're mighty, and we always gonna be super nerdy as well. And cringy. I'm gonna throw that in there as well. Y'all saw the video. Anyways, so for today's stream, thank you for coming by for today's stream. We're going to be working on the CI/CD pipeline automations. Essentially, what we've been doing up until this point is trying to get our application kind of just scaffolded out, just a little bit, a teensy, small little bit, nothing like super crazy, but enough to where we can actually build some type of deployable, executable file. Let's call it a release, okay? And the ability to make our software released as something that can actually be ran by clicking an icon on a desktop or whatever after it's been installed, of course, that is really critical. Without being able to do that, we can't really serve our software product to our customers. So even though it's in a rough state, the goal of this specific sprint that we're doing isn't to make the app work. That part is going to happen. We already have a prototype. We already have clear examples of things that we're going to do to make the app work the way that we want it to work. The main thing is that we need to make it where our application can be accessible by potential users and also by potential stakeholders. And the reason for that is because I am always going to continuously be updating this app pretty much from here on. Once you have an app that you can deploy and release, it's going to be continuously worked on and developed pretty much for the rest of its life cycle. And by having deployments and releases available early as artifacts, that means that you can get into that feedback loop with your customer more quickly. In fact, let's go ahead and go over to Freeform, and let's make like a little diagram to kind of break this down just a little bit. So here is our software. This is the circle. Let's call this released software. And we also will have the software in development. If you're working on a SaaS application, then release would be production. And within this relationship, we have people. Let's go ahead and pick, I don't know, this looks like a good person. So this is going to be someone who is our stakeholder. And a stakeholder can be a customer, it can be an investor, it could be a teammate, it could be someone from another team. Basically, a stakeholder is just a person who you need to consider their feedback in your development process. Okay. Typically, stakeholders are thought of as being internal or external. So we have our released software, our development software. We can call this the development release. Let's just call it development version. That's fine. And we have a stakeholder here. This stakeholder is really the thing or the person that we're trying to satisfy in this equation of how we're making the software. The number one thing to remember when you when you are an engineer versus an artist is that you typically, and we'll put that in parentheses, create software for someone's, let's put that in S. Usually it's more than one person, but someone else. Typically, you create software for someone else. Now, unless you're making a solution that is genuinely for you and you alone, which is perfectly fine to do, by the way, because I think engineers should be making things for themselves. Make tools for yourself, right? But unless you're making something that's specifically for yourself, then this someone needs to be able to actually access the software so that you can get feedback. And that feedback is going to be your primary way of determining, like, what do you need to do, okay? So the key thing to remember here is that your stakeholder is the someone else that you must care about in this process. So you're going to have a development version which you make available to your stakeholder as a piece of released software. And this requires typically an automation. Now you can build manually. We want to avoid that because we want to have a reproducible process, and there's no reason why we can't start it now. But this developed version, it is released, and in fact, the release here is actually the process, not the actual product. We'll call this release version the artifact. For example, have you ever been to a website to download some software and have you ever been to a website to download software and they ask you, do you have a Mac? Do you have a Windows? Do you have a Linux computer? And based on which of those options you select, they will offer you a different file to download. That's what the artifact in this context is. Let's go ahead and make that yellow. Okay, so we have this development version. This is what you're actually, let me get my big head out the way. I'm so sorry, y'all. My face is all in the way. So this development version here, right here, this is like what you're working on typically in your local environment. This also includes anything that is just typically not available to the end user because you're actually working on it. And this releasing process, that is what we call deployment. And deployment basically requires some type of automation, okay? So let's go ahead and update this really quick. So we'll say that this requires automation. And this automation, as far as we're concerned, because we're using GitHub, is going to be in the form of a GitHub workflow. Now, there are other ways to do automations. There are so many different systems that you can use. Pretty much any company that provides online source control or version control, like GitHub, GitLab, ADO, the Atlassian products, they all have their own version of what it means to do automations. You can also run automations locally as well. So think of automations as a concept. Okay. So that's that. Okay, so what we're doing is we're making it available to them. And then the next part here, let's find a group of people. I guess there's no crowd. Let's do this. So these stakeholders, they're going to be valuable because they provide essential communication that ends up back at the development team. Now, usually the development team has an advocate, a product owner, a product manager, something like that. And this person, in fact, ends up being a sort of interface. But the main thing here is that this group of developers is going to be able to receive that feedback and then do something according to it. So we'll just put that right here. So if you can imagine, there should be another arrow here, and this stakeholder will communicate something that we'll just call feedback. Okay. This feedback is going to be turned into issues. Issues, or you can also refer to them as tickets. The main point here is that these will become work items. Now, the process of how they become work items, that is nuanced. Typically, it runs through potentially UX, if it's a UX related thing. It could run through architecture. If it is at an enterprise level, it might run through, that feedback might run through several groups of people before a portion of that work is, on your desk potentially. But the main thing is that the feedback we get from stakeholder goes to the developers and then becomes work items that result in a change within the development version through feature work, typically. That's what we call that. Okay, so feature work is the thing here. Okay, so this kind of explains why I care so much about making my application available early. Because stakeholders are not just interested in the finished product, they're interested in the life cycle or the journey of the product. And if you could imagine that this is all just a big iterative, agile Scrum process. And a big part of why this methodology exists is so that we can show something to our potential customer early. If we wait too long, then we'll be making something that doesn't really take into account what our customer actually wants. So this cycle is intended to make the process somewhat accessible and inclusive to the person or the people that you supposed to care about when you're making something. So to wrap this around, just remember that when we make software, we're not making it for ourselves. Typically, we're making it for someone else. And in order to make it for someone else and to do a good job, we need to actually listen to them. We need to get their feedback. We need to have something to show. We need to be able to show the difference from the last version of something to the current version of something. And that brings up another point, versioning. Typically, when you have an application, you're creating it with versions in mind. And those versions are what you use as demarcations from one significant change to the next. And those are the things that you're using to show the customers as well. So this is all going to be an interlinked thing. This doesn't need to be perfect right now. Just know that if you start this early, this process of developing your entire your workflows and your automations, if you do it now, it is going to save you a lot of potential frustration as opposed to doing it in the future. You can always do it later on, but as your application becomes more complicated, it is going to become harder and harder to deploy and not miss a bunch of stuff. Okay, so we're not going to wait a long time because I know that this application will be quite complicated by the time it's mature, and I want to avoid that heartache. Okay, so this is all iteration. Okay, iteration gives us the ability to start simple and to build from there. I hope that helps, and I think we can go ahead and jump into actually doing some coding. I'm going to be using Windsurf, and I'm going to be using a little bit of Gemini. So this is going to be a little vibey codey-ish, but that's what we're doing. We're vibe coding. So don't judge me because I ain't judging you. Anyways, I'm going to try to show you how to do it in a way that is thoughtful and considered. That's really kind of the purpose of these videos and of this series, is to kind of show you that when we're using AI as a tool to make code and to create applications, that there is a way to do it. And if we do it thoughtfully, it can come out quite fantastic. So I'm going to start a new chat history here for Cascade. I already have Gemini running here, so we can go ahead and get started. Now, if you were watching the previous episode, the previous thing I did was I worked on the backlog here and I worked on the current. So this current.md document within my repository, this is essentially just going to be my plan for what to do. Now you can see here, I have CI/CD pipeline automation as my first task. And this task is really divided into two portions. The first portion of this task is to create an automation for the development branch. And the second task is to do the same thing, but to do it for the main branch. Now, the first one here, the development branch, this is going to be triggered whenever the development branch is basically pushed to. Typically like a pull request, but if it was like a straight push, it would still launch. And this is just going to run things like our test, linter, quality assurance, pretty much anything like that. A lot of stuff to scan the application, a lot of stuff to make sure that we have code quality and consistency, that kind of thing. Now, there are parts of the dev branch that will be inherited into the main branch automations. But the main branch automations here, the workflow, is going to be more specifically devoted not only to running those tests and stuff, those are required, of course, but also at the end of all of that, it is going to release and build the actual executable that will run our application as intended by the potential user. Okay, so these automations are going to be running scripts and then also creating a release. Okay, and then depending on how far we get, I don't know if we'll get into there, but we already have some other things here to do as well. So always have tasks lined up, have more than you can complete. That way you have something to work on in the event that you finish early. If you're just joining us, thanks for coming by the stream. I see all of you. I see all of your numbers here. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being on this journey with me. I could cry, but I'm a gangster. Okay, so let's go ahead and get busy. Okay, so the first thing I always do is with Gemini, which is what I'm going to use right now, is I always ask Gemini to, from a new session, of course, I always ask it to familiarize itself with the working standards that we have created essentially in our context, so that as it's doing this work, it can do it in a way that applies to our best practices. Now, in our repository, we have this standards folder right here. And in the standards folder, we have Git workflow. And then here are some standards that are for that. And there's details in here. Okay, so these are already some standards that we've created. We'll probably learn more. We have CI/CD here as well. Branching strategy stuff. Let's go ahead and get rid of some of these lint errors. But we have branching strategy stuff here. These are all things that Gemini keeps in context, and we wanted to use those. And not only that, but we wanted to also help us to develop more standards, because we're probably going to learn something from this process. So I'm going to say, please familiarize yourself with the standards that correlate to our next work item. And then I'm going to go to my currents.md, which is the file I use to keep track of just what I'm trying to do. Sidebar, whenever you're coding, please, always write down your intention first. Have it typed up somewhere. Just even for yourself, but definitely if you're using AI. Always have a written plan of sorts. It will keep you on track. I'm going to just paste my plan, which is my current.md in here. And I'm going to have it familiarize itself with our standards, and then off to the races it will go. Okay, so let's see here. So it read branching strategy in CI/CD pipeline. Cool. Excuse me. Okay. Okay, cool. So now when I'm looking at this branching strategy, I think I might have made a mistake. Let me just diagram here. Now we're going to have two branches that we care about right now. Let's make those. Let's just make those like this. So this is main, and we have dev. Now, the issue that I have right now in my current plan is that I'm trying to make a distinct main branching strategy or a CI/CD pipeline strategy. I'm trying to make one for dev. I think a better strategy is for us to have what's called composable workflows or composed workflows. That way we don't have to duplicate things, right? So I will in fact care about some things that are between these two different branches. So I want them to share whatever things are overlapping. So things that will overlap, let's just get rid of this. Things that will overlap. There we go. Okay, so things that will overlap is that I want to run test scripts. I want to run quality assurance scripts. I don't need to have all these figured out right now. I can always add them later on. But in this, I'm thinking check for circular dependencies. I want to check for files that are floating or unused files, unused constants, functions, etc. Now, I'm going to be in charge of determining like what the actual threshold for a blocking action would be. You know, a couple of unused functions or constants might actually be intentional. It might be intentional for some reason. But if you have a ton of them in there, you should have something that allows you to get like a warning at least. But these quality assurance scripts can do that for us. There could also be security scans. Security scans can do a bunch of stuff. They can scan for exposed secrets and API keys that might actually accidentally be floating around. They can also scan for common errors and common patterns, especially if you're doing stuff like SQL or whatnot. So security scans are pretty important. Let's see anything else. Security scans, circular dependencies, unused files. There might even be some performance profiling. Now, I'm not going to get into like full performance testing per se, but I can also have some type of metric for the size of the package and maybe to account for why it's so big. There could be some nuance there. So anyways, these scripts here are going to more or less be shared between dev and main. And we want to make sure that we write them in a way where they can be written once, essentially. So main is going to have its own unique scripts, and those scripts will be build and release, and also version. Let's say version plus. Okay, it's going to up the version, going to make a build, going to have a release, and it's going to store that release somewhere. Now we can use GitHub as a place to store our releases to make them available, at least while our application is small. Later on, we might choose to use a bucket. The dev branch will have these here. I might additionally have some automations I can run manually, maybe for something like performance or something like that. Performance is more intensive. I could also have in here integration testing is important here. You may not have integration testing for your local environment if you're early on, but integration testing somewhere should happen if you're like trying to test your actual development environment, which we don't have yet, but eventually this will be here. So integration testing, unit tests. We don't have any. Sometimes you can test with something like Selenium. Selenium is like a way to automate a browser. Sometimes you can have a headless browser and run Selenium-based automated testing. We're not going to do that here. So mostly I just care about unit tests and integration tests for my app at this point. So these will be shared. So what this is telling me here is that I probably just need to have 3 separate workflows, and then they can or cannot use this. Let's just call this QA workflow. Yes, let's call this QA workflow, and this will be a shared workflow. You can actually stack them more or less, and we'll just do it like this. Now, what sometimes you'll see is that people may have workflows that are triggered manually, that they can determine the circumstances under which they run. That might be for more intensive ones, and there are some things that you don't want to have run every single time you push to your dev branch, because it could be rather expensive or eat up your compute time, which is not infinite, at least on GitHub. So we don't want all these to always run. I'm thinking about this performance one. I'm thinking about if this also had Selenium based testing. I'm thinking if this was also, I don't know, deploying to dev environment. I'm going to make these gray because I don't actually care about these right now, but I will at some point in the future. Okay. So with that being said, I think I need to make just a small alteration to my plan to accommodate this, and we'll just do that here in a second. And there we go. I love making these diagrams, by the way, if you can't tell. I do these like every episode at this point because I am just a glutton for joy. Diagrams are so amazing. By the way, if you're trying to get a job, make diagrams, because diagrams are a great way to show that you know what you're talking about. But make them yourselves. Don't like use AI to shortcut it. Okay, let me just go ahead and finish. You know, I get real into this, so it has to be up to par. Let's make the inside of this no fill, and then we'll just bring this. I like to put frames around things. Makes them look nicer. This is a little too thick. And there we go. Ooh, there we go. And we can actually just put these as like separate. I hope y'all are working on something while we're streaming. I feel like that would be so fun, because when I started this stream, I was thinking about the idea of like this stream kind of feeling like just hanging out with your friend or whatever. Like we're just hanging out and coding. So grab a project, work on something fun, and let me know in the chat. Okay. While I'm here, I'm just going to make a small little edit to this one. when I'm doing these diagrams, I like to use dotted lines to connect things that are more like ideas or things that are less critical. So don't mind me. Just let me be code CD here. I think I do have a lot of scrupulosity with this type of thing. But okay, so there you go. Blue is good. There we go. Now we can go ahead and hop back into our code. And I'm going to spend the first little time actually making this into the change here. Now, one thing that's really cool is that you can actually take an image and you can put this image in your repo. And if you put an image in your repo, you get the ability to read that image. If you're using Gemini or you're using Windsurf, they're multimodal. So what I could do is I could actually say, hey, I would like you to update my plan based on the provided image. And this image is a better reflection of what I'm trying to do. Can you please update the plan? Isn't that, like, that's crazy to think about, right? That's just insane. We like literally spent time making a diagram, and now it's useful because it's consumable by AI. So I'm going to take this link here. I'm going to right click this link here, and I'm going to take the path, and I'm going to put it into Windsurf. Windsurf's better at this than Gemini CLI, so I'm going to use this real quick, and I'm going to say, please use this image to rework the way that we are building. Fine. We need to refactor it so that it is composable. Don't worry about the performance Selenium, because it will not understand. But don't worry about the performance Selenium or deploying to dev environment. This is intended to be just an update to the plan, not execution. Because if you don't tell it, it's going to try to start doing it. And all I want it to do is update this document right here with this new plan. So please update current. You can use the @ symbol to find a file. Current.md to reflect this new composable approach to GitHub workflows. Now, you know, I'd be doing some lengthy, very lengthy prompts because I like detail. I like detail. I like it a lot. You ain't gonna get me twisted in these streets. Okay, so we'll say screen. I'm not going to keep this image in here. It's literally just for right now, and I'm going to delete it. So it's not going to stay in my project. I just kind of slapped it in there. I schlupped it up in there. Okay. Now, y'all know Cascade ain't as fast. Cascade's not as fast as Gemini CLI, so it's going to take a sweet little time here. I'm running this on GPT-5 medium reasoning. It's free, so you know what I'm saying. That's all. Say less. It's free, but I do find it works really well, and it is definitely slower than Gemini 2.5 Flash, for sure. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a break. When I come back, we're gonna continue where we left off. We've been streaming for 38 minutes. We're gonna go for 2 hours today. So don't go anywhere. Don't go too far. If you go anywhere, make sure you make your way back to the pack because I'll be right here where you left me at. This is Key, and you're watching Primatif.
It's the breakdown. Release that. Release that.
Hey y'all, I'm back. And you already know who it is. Your lovely host, Key. And you're watching Primitive. So we can go ahead and jump back into our project. And now that we have updated our plan for the CI/CD pipeline and our sprint plan here, current.md, we can now go ahead and pick up where we left off. So I'm just going to tell Gemini CLI here, please read current.md. I updated the plan. We will do composable CI/CD workflows. Now, let's take a look at GitHub really quick. So, if you go to GitHub, there is a tab here that says Actions. This Actions tab is where you can see information about the workflows you have set up. You can also use it to trigger those workflows. You can also use it to learn information about the success or failure of a workflow by investigating the logs that were generated when that runner was doing its job. So if we go to the Actions tab right now, we're going to see that it's empty because we only have our actions currently set up for our dev branch. And I know this because if I go to the workflow, there is a parameter here, an argument for the branch or the branches that this will be for. And right now it's just set to dev. And in fact, that is actually incorrect because our development branch is called development, not dev. So nothing's going to be here unless the names match correctly. So let's go ahead and update this here and make this say development. And just to put this on GitHub, we'll go ahead and do just a quick commit. I'm not going to commit that image. We don't really need it right now. Actually, let's go ahead and let's be responsible here. Let me put this in. Let's just say GitHub workflow diagram. And let's put this in the workflow folder. Yeah. I don't know if it'll live there permanently, but I think I'd be responsible to just put it in there like that. And we'll take the relative path and I'll put it there like that. Actually, I'll just put the name of the file. So, okay, so with this anyways, since we do a commit here, then we'll be able to go to GitHub and we'll see that that file has now or will now be turned into actual actions, and we can see the interface that is created from that. If we refresh here, it should show. If we're on the development branch, you'll know that you're on the development branch because you'll see right here, it'll say the name of the branch you're on. Okay. So development. And then now you can see here that there is a CI/CD pipeline. I don't know what this is. I don't remember making this CI/CD pipeline. I must have made it like a long time ago. I don't remember making this. This is kind of what we want anyways. So this is going to be overridden, but it looks like this is just a simple workflow for development that actually does build something here. It's running build for Tauri, build for Vite, the front end. It's running test. It's running format, Clippy, all that. Okay, so let's go ahead and let it continue what it was going to do. It's going to make some folderage for us. I'm going to stop it. I actually want the workflows to be in a certain place. So I want them to be in .github/workflows. No subfolders for now. Whoops. I accidentally pressed the arrow button, so I lost my prompt. Sometimes it happens. No. Okay. I lost my prompt. I gotta rewrite it. Dang, that sometimes happens. when you press the up and down arrow, it'll scroll through your history. So I got to retype that. So I'll just say here, when you make the new YAML files, put them all in the same workflows folder, flat and no sub-directories, and refactor the dev branch .yaml that already exists. Please and thank you, because that's the magic word. Please and thank you, the words that should be heard. Please. Okay. So back to this. Okay, so it's gonna yeah. Okay, so could you please clarify if you want the setup environment to be composable or reusable? Ooh, I guess it means something else. Well, the intention here is that I don't want to write things twice, and the main branch will share some automations with the dev branch. So I want to keep these dry as possible. Dry is an acronym that developers use, which means don't repeat yourself. DRY. Don't repeat yourself. Let's go ahead and spell that on the screen because I got this fancy software. Don't repeat yourself. And that's what dry stands for. That's the D, the R, and the Y. This is actually an important concept, as funny as I'm being, because if you don't have dry code, you're going to have really messy code, and then you're going to create a lot of cruft and a lot of technical debt, and you're going to make a lot of mistakes because you're doing things that are supposed to be the same, but it's with code that is repeated as opposed to centralized or used as constant, or reusable variables, reusable functions, and stuff like that. So we want to keep our code as dry as possible through and throughout, forevermore. Okay, so let's go here. Even though I'm pressing enter and accepting these changes, I always will look through to make sure it's good. Okay. Now, one thing I'm seeing here is, okay, I use Bun locally, but I only ever use Bun to run npm scripts. I'm not using it as a test runner per se or anything like that. It's not building my JavaScript or anything. So I wanted to make sure that my script here can run Bun, and if not, that it can just do npm. I would almost have it rather use npm, but I'm going to wait to do that, to make that change. But yeah, I don't need to do Bun for my workflows because I'm not using Bun for anything that is like unique. And if I have to download something extra, then that is going to be kind of annoying. Let's see. So this is going to take an inputs node version to use, Bun version to use. Cool. Composite. Okay. So this is going to run the checkout repository, set up Node.js. And okay, that's the version there. Cache. So use Bun for caching node modules. Set up Bun. Okay, set up REST toolchain. I wonder if the Bun part is going to cause issues with performance and speed. Because that's like a whole nother thing to install. It shouldn't be that big of an impact, but it will have an impact nonetheless. We'll come back and negotiate those details in a little bit, but let's go ahead and read the next one. So that was a new workflow here for reusable QA. Excuse me. Okay, so this will run the installation for Bun. Cool. Run tests. Okay. It'll run the cargo tests as well. I don't have that many. I don't have any, I think. Okay. Just some other quality stuff. Okay. And then it'll generate a summary that'll print out to the console. Okay, cool. Oh, there will be a QA summary artifact. Okay, I'm not sure where that will be, but that's interesting. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. It is going to update the dev branch script to use the steps that are defined in the QA workflow. Okay. Oh, I see right here. So this is QA workflow. It's going to call this one. It's going to inherit the secrets. Secrets are like any things like API tokens, keys, stuff like that. And then it's going to run the steps. The steps are defined by these names right here. So it's going to run certains of these, essentially. And it's going to do a dry run. This dry run here won't actually make a meaningful thing to use or do anything with. But in the process of building, that's going to show me some compile time errors, which is good. Okay, so now we have a new one here for main branch. And I don't have like any secrets or tokens right now, so I'm not looking for anything like that. This should be fairly simple. So here's some steps for reusable QA. This isn't quite how I imagined this, but okay. So tag name, cool. Okay, this will release, build and release. Tag name, token, placeholder per version number. Okay. Okay. And I want my release to target, for now, I want to just target Mac OS. Since it's Tauri, it's not going to be a big deal. At least I don't think it should be a big deal to exclude the other ones. I just don't want this to take forever. And also, I only have the capacity to test my software on Mac OS and potentially Linux if I run it on my Raspberry Pi. Not too concerned about the Windows. I just happen to know for a fact that most comic book artists are Mac users. So I'm not too worried about that. Okay, so that's going to change. Oh, that's going to change the OS that this runs on. Okay, I got it. Excuse me. Okay, so it's going to change. Oh, I meant that the release should bundle just for Mac. And the runs on. I think I can use Ubuntu still. Let's see if it changes it back. I could have just done that manually. That was so lazy of me. Let's take this back to Ubuntu. I feel like Ubuntu will be faster for this process to run on. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to just ask it like, look at our branching, our branch CI/CD strategy across our two branches. Do you think this is the best strategy? I'm just curious. I'm just curious what it's going to tell me. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll antagonistically use one chatbot to check the work of another. So it seems to think that this is fine. Let's see. So clear distinctions. Okay. Maintaining the stability of the main branch. Cool. Okay. Very small team. Okay, cool. Hotfix strategy. Current documentation doesn't explicitly tell hotfix process. A common approach is to branch hotfixes directly from main, merge back into main, then cherry pick or merge into dev. Yeah, I don't have that. Hotfix will be important. So what a hotfix is, let's say that, let's go back to our diagram here. So let's say that our application is in the hands of our stakeholder and there's like some emergency for the current version that is broken, you know, like something really big is broken. You may actually decide to issue a hotfix, which basically is just a way to fix a problem, like a bug. Like, have you ever had like a game or like a piece of software and it's like really buggy, and then you get like an emergency update when otherwise you might not have been able to use it? That's what a hotfix is. So it's just like an emergency patch. And there's usually a strategy that we use for that. I'm not going to worry about it right now. The main branch currently uses a version placeholder, integrating with an automated versioning system. Yes, we want to have an automated versioning system for sure. Okay, so I'm just going to tell it here. Let's accommodate, or let's use semantic release. Let me explain to you what that actually means. So in the world of deployments, you have something called versions. So a version is a number that designates the specific build for traceability. I don't know how to spell traceability. Okay, so specific targeted build for traceability. Let's see if it'll help me out with my spelling here. So the reason why this is important is because whenever you have issues, even if they're not like negative issues, whatever you have positive or negative issues, you always want to talk about issues in the context of a specific version, because otherwise, how do you know what to fix? How do you know where to go and investigate to find the specific details or the reasoning behind whatever that feedback is? So these versions are organized in a way that we call semantically. Semantic means that it has a structure. It has structure and rules for how and why we number. Now, I won't belabor you with like a super lengthy, detailed explanation. Also, I'm not like the super biggest expert with this specifically, but this is something that all teams are going to do, and you don't need to be an expert because, in fact, there is a pretty simple system. I'm going to tell you the system that I know. So for semantic versioning, basically the way it goes is your number will consist of 3 parts. And for this example, we'll just, for now, do x, x, x. Okay, so this first number is the major version. This smaller number is the minor version. And this x is a patch. Okay, so these are all essentially 3 different reasons or categories of reasons for why one might be updating the code that your application is running. Okay, so we have a major version change. We have a minor version change. And then we have a patch. A patch is also known as a fix. Okay, so we need to make sure that we have a way of designating when the version changes, whether or not it is any of these 3 categories. Let's go ahead and make these a nice magenta. Okay, so just an example of a version is our version for our app may very well be something like version 1.01.5. Okay. So it's the same thing here essentially. Major, minor, and patch or fix. So what do these three different reasonings or semantic, annotations, what do they mean? It's pretty simple. Major is a way to designate that something is a breaking change. A breaking change means that something about this change is going to essentially cause things to break if the change is not fully implemented, okay? So for example, if I have a change in the API of a server, that is a major change because other things depend on that API to work in a certain way, right? So major changes potentially have downstream consequences that change how code works when it is depended on. Okay, there's probably some other ways to interpret this, but this is just a very simple way to think about it. Okay, so the clearest example is, let's say you have a server, and your server, you can change the way that an API works under the hood, but the interface and what that interface provides, if that changes, then it is considered breaking because anything that uses that endpoint or that API essentially has to be also updated to accommodate for the major breaking change. We want to tell when something is major because it signals to a vendor or it signals to possibly another team or other stakeholders that they need to be aware of how the consequences of this update might affect what they're doing. So major is important. Now the second one here is minor. A minor is a non-breaking change or update. Okay. So what this means is this could be something that is additive and isolated, meaning that it doesn't have an effect on something that exists, such as to change it, but it might extend some behavior or feature that already exists. Okay, so a minor change is something that is not going to break anything. Okay, minor changes would be like if you have a website and you add a new page to the website, and that new page can do whatever it wants to do, but it doesn't affect the old pages you had. Okay, and then the last one here is going to be a patch. A patch is typically something that fixes an issue, such as a bug, or to provide for security or accessibility as needed. And oftentimes this is done in an ad hoc way as well, but not always. Okay, so this could include hot fixes. Now, whether or not you define these categories exactly as I define them here, this is essential to have worked out when you're developing an application. Because unless you have a clear set of rules for how this is going to happen, when it's going to happen, and why it will happen, then your application is going to become hard to manage, especially if it starts to scale in complexity, and all the more so if your application's architecture is like microservices heavy or has a lot of API and integrations. Okay, so please remember semantic versions are super important. And when we say semantic versioning, a lot of times what we're indicating is that there is some type of system that can handle at least a portion of that work for us as well. So we don't have to be completely in charge of keeping track of this stuff in our heads, which would be really, really, really hard, especially when you have a mono repo like what we're creating. A mono repo is when you have multiple apps or infrastructure existing in the same repo. And that's kind of what we have going on with our app. Okay, so let's just go ahead and straighten this up, and then we'll jump back in. You know me and my diagrams got to be a certain way. I don't play when it comes to diagrams. Okay, so let's go ahead and get back into our application here, and let's see what it is up to. Okay, so it is going to add some new semantic release stuff for us. Okay, these will just be in our package.json. Okay, let's go ahead and accept that. It'll be in the front end package. Looks like let's find it. Let's find it. Where'd it go? I think we're here, and there we go. So we have semantic release, changelog, commit analyzer, git, GitHub. Okay. And then we have a release rc.json. This is a configuration file that coordinates these plugins together. Okay. Okay, cool. And it's going to make a new script. This script here that it's adding is the script that will be ran whenever our automation uses this repo to bump up the version. And I think that that should happen on our main branch just before a deployment. That's the only time we really care about upping a version, I think. That might change, actually. I might actually bump the versions on the dev branch. Oh, excuse me. I'm going to bump the versions on the dev branch in the future when I have a dev environment. But for now, we're not going to worry about that. We'll do that later. Okay. So I'm going to have it also give me like a little summary. So explain what I can expect from this. I'm curious. This is not my super area of expertise, so I'm going to cheat here and have it kind of explain and break it down for me. Always do that. And then after I read this, I'm going to have the work checked by Cascade. By the way, y'all, thank you for being here so much. Please use the chat, follow, like, subscribe, comment, do all the things. The chat, for some reason, is not showing for me, so I literally cannot see. Oh, I'm so sad. Wait, I might be able to get to work on OBS. Can I? Ooh, I don't think it's gonna work. Oh, wait. I can fix this. I think I can fix this. Give me a second. I can fix it. I can fix this. I don't know if I can fix it for anyone else, but I think I can fix it for myself. Do that. And oh. Hey, I can see the chat now. Hey, Ujwal, Kumar. Hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? Okay, I can see the chat now. But I cannot chat because my little window inside of YouTube Studio, it says that something went wrong with the chat. So I cannot actually see it, unfortunately. But I can't type in it, but I can see you also. I'll just respond on stream. If you say anything, I'll just respond on stream. How about that? Cash me outside. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so for dev branches, so dev branch pushes and manual dispatch, automated quality assurance. Every push to dev branch or a manual trigger will automatically run a comprehensive set of quality checks. Environment will be set up with bun node, Rust toolchain, and cache dependencies. Front end tests, Rust test, Rust Clippy. We also want to do a linter for the front end as well. We don't have a linter for the front end. We need a linter for the front end. Okay, please get that. Thank you. Thank you much. Thank you much. Okay, so it's going to add ESLint. Cool, and it's going to configure that script in here for us. Okay, what else does this say? Oh, it needs me to push enter. Got you, bro. Oh, we have a ESLint RC. Cool. Yeah, you got to do linting, by the way. If you don't lint, and if you don't, well, mostly linting right now. There's other stuff too. But if you don't lint, then you're going to have a lot of errors in your code. If you don't build, then you will have errors that you don't see until your project runs afresh. So do both, especially before you do a pull request or whatever. Okay, so ESLint. Okay, cool. That's a new script here, which is this one right here. I'm going to designate this as front end lint. Okay. Okay, cool. So we got that part. So this is the stuff that you might miss if you didn't know what you were doing in your code base, by the way. I'm trying to do only things that I know how to do, even if I have not done them personally or directly, or I'm rusty. I'm trying to make sure I don't skip over things that I don't know how to do, and I'm actually reading this stuff. The last thing you want to do is just be clicking a bunch of buttons and building spaghetti code, or AI slop, as they say. Okay, so Vite will be built. Tauri application will undergo a dry run build. Cool. You'll receive feedback on the health quality of the dev branch. So I did see that in my script here. Actually, it's in this one right here. So this actually prints out a summary. I don't know where that summary ends up, so I need to ask it. Where does the QA summary end up when it is created as a text file? How can I see it? It must be someplace inside of GitHub. I'm assuming. It seems like. Okay. Workflow artifact. What's that? Workflow artifact. I don't know where that will be, but I'm assuming it's going to be somewhere in this region or of something of sorts. I don't know. Okay, but I guess it does have a place where it's going to end up. That's cool. That's cute. You know what I'm saying? I like that or whatnot. Okay, so fully automated release process. Every merge into the main branch will trigger a complete automated release. Comprehensive QA, the same quality assurance checks performed on the dev branch will run first to ensure the main branch is stable. Let's see this again. QA. Excuse me. I would like to have a specific QA script and compose these into it. I would prefer that. That's just me. So what I'm saying here is that right now, our QA process is going to be calling like lint format front end lint dot probably not lint.md, but it's going to be running any number of these, and I would like it to instead do QA for everything as one script that I can modify and include or exclude things from. It's just going to make it easier when I have to edit the things that are included in the QA instead of having to run all over the place. I'll just be able to compose them here. Okay, so now we have a QA all. So bun test, cargo test, cool. And then bun run, lint, markdown lint. We can remove markdown lint. We don't need that one. And then this will grow eventually. So, okay, so that means it's going to be shorter, which is great for us. Okay, cool. So let's go back and check that now. And I think, okay, so I think now what we can do is we can open up Cascade. I'm going to give Gemini a little bit of a break here. And I'm going to, this is my little trick. So with Cascade, whenever Cascade starts doing its thing, it will give you a button down here that will explicitly ask you if you want to reject or accept those changes. But I like to do this little trick where I stage the stuff I'm about to stage, and then I will just ask it, please check the staged files and make sure that they are aligned with our current .md plan, and also that this code is written in an optimal way. Make suggestions for improvement and find any potential or any gross issues, knowing that this is meant to be simple and direct. We will continue to improve this process, but need something as a beginning foundation. That was too long of a prompt, but once I started, I just had to keep going, you know? I ain't gonna stop. Can't stop, won't stop. Can't stop, won't stop. Can't stop, won't stop. Okay. Okay, so as usual, you know, Cascade be taking its time, which is cool for us, but I think that also means that we are ready for another break. So go ahead and just you know, saying like stick around, watch this. Do.
It's the breakdown. Release that. Release that. Release that.
Hey y'all, it's your lovely host. My name is Key, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Built in Public. We're going to continue where we left off. We're working on the Comic Panel app, and we are, I think, at the point where we can finally put this set of workflows on GitHub. While I was away, I allowed Cascade to do like a little bit of an audit for us, just to review the work that was done by Gemini CLI. Now, this is just me, just my preference, but I find that if you use two different LLMs or at least two different chat sessions in an antagonistic way, which means that one works against the other or one checks the other, I find that I get like a lot better results, and I'm less likely to sort of like overlook certain things. So before I went on the break, I said, please check the staged files, which are these here, and make sure that they are aligned with our current.md. Current.md is the actual plan of what we need to be doing, which is this stuff right here. And so look at that stuff. And this code is written in an optimal way. Make suggestions for improvement and find any gross issues, knowing that this is meant to be simple and direct. We will continue to improve this process, but need something as a beginning foundation. Okay, so what's it saying here? Missing reusable workflow. So these both call, which doesn't exist. I don't know about that part. Okay. Workflows, it does exist. That you be tripping, but let's see what this link goes to. Yeah, that works. Okay, so I don't know. I don't know. They both have the reference. Let me just make sure the other one does. So dev branch refers to that one, and this link works here. Because sometimes your AI does get the links messed up, so those are good actually. Okay, what else? So that is fine. I check. Doc mislabeled. The bullet reads reusable KA workflow. The workflow actually does have an image. I put it there since it is a visual representation we used in an earlier prompt. I wanted to save it for documentation purposes. In fact, I might actually make a new guide in Docs. I like to have guides here that explain how some of my code works as I make it. That way, if I forget, because I probably will, I'll come back. So maybe I'll have this this diagram somehow integrated in here as a new guide that I can come back to. We can move the image, however, into a new doc guide with a document explaining the workflows and how they work. Okay, composite action cache option. Since we separate cache bun dependency step is good. Let's keep that bun cache pre-create. Okay, bun lock. So this is consistent. Okay. QA script order. Okay, so yeah, so the script changes directories make command. That's not good, actually. That's an anti-pattern. So fix the QA script order. That's fine. Because if we do it this way, like it's right now, it's not going to be able to run the scripts at the root level because it will have CD'd. Okay, so dev workflow build step, bun run Tauri build, bundles, none. Okay, for the build script, do DMG instead of none. Declares job output new release version, but the step semantic release never writes. Downstream. We will disable comment out the semantic versioning in the workflow. We will make in the workflow, and I'll tell it to make a backlog ticket and backlog.md to address making semantic versioning work later on. I don't need to have semantic versioning figured out right now. I can do that part later. That's cool. I just need to get something that's working and I can see. I don't want that to be blocking. It's okay that we are only releasing to Mac OS. I have typos, but it's fine though. So no explicit permissions blocked. Default is too permissive. No concurrency to cancel superseded runs per branch. Okay. I'll just have it address the security things. I don't quite know exactly what. I don't quite exactly understand those two, but I think it's fine. As far as it thinking I'm missing a file, I'm going to also give it the link. What's this action? Main branch. Setup environment. Okay, so this is just the environment that both of these are running. Okay, cool. I'm going to give it the link for the reusable QA YAML here, since it seems to think it doesn't exist. And let's give this an @ symbol. Okay, so let's go ahead and send that. And we've been streaming for 1 hour and 44 minutes, which means that we have about 15 minutes to go. If you're with us, I just want to say thank you for being a part of the stream today. Your presence is always like really appreciated here. Small YouTubers, we be on it. Okay, just know that when you see Nikki spit, Nikki wrote it. No, that's what. Let me stop embarrassing myself. But yeah, small YouTubers, we're out here, we're showing what can really be done by an individual. And I thank you for all your support because I do all this stuff by myself with a little bit of AI, of course, to help me out here and there. But your presence and your participation and your followership, comments, all that kind of stuff makes me want to cry. But I appreciate it so much. And you're the best. So thanks for sticking it out. And in about 15 minutes, we'll go ahead and get off of here. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Cascade, doing its thing. It's going to check the file. It's going to read the backlog. Okay. Comment out semantic versioning. Remove the incorrect bun cache config from the composite action. Update current.md to reference the new CI/CD guide. Finally, okay. So it's going to do this stuff here. And I think that this is going to be the last thing we do. So, which means that you'll have to come back tomorrow. I don't know when the next stream is going to be, but let's just say tomorrow. You'll have to come back tomorrow. Subscribe if you want to see like the information for the next stream, but come back and then we'll actually get this deployed and working. Very likely there will be issues, but we're going to work through them together. So once this finishes its thing here, then I think we'll be able to wrap up. So let's see what's happening. Okay, so this is the reasoning. There was a recent change to some of the UI in Cascade. I am not a huge fan. Let's see here. So it's going to add a new task into our backlog. Okay. Oh, something I need to do is I need to, excuse me, I need to regenerate these backlog items with my add task script so that they all have their own UUIDs and also so that they are appropriately formatted to be aligned with our strategy here. That's something I can do before I leave as well. That's like a little small thing. Okay, so it's going to update our script here for QA all, and it's going to change the order. So basically what this did is it made it where the scripts that can run from the root will happen first. So it'll make sure the scripts that can happen through will happen first, and then the ones that need a CD will happen second, so that it doesn't mess up or cause a break. And let's see what else here. I feel like the new UI is causing a lot of overthinking. Also, GPT-5, I just feel like it overthinks, which makes it really slow. I don't need all that thinking. I can get by with like a Flash model in a lot of cases. But when I'm lazy, it's the Cascade all the way. So, okay, so it's going to do its thing. While it's doing that, I can actually run Gemini as well. Let's see. I'm going to have Gemini work on our backlog thing real quick. That is not conflicting with anything that is happening with our with our Cascade. So I'm just going to run two chatbots at the same time. Okay, so please use the, what did I call it again? Add task backlog. Backlog script to remake the backlog.md file so that it fits our standard, and remove the existing items so we don't have duplicates. Okay, so we're just going to respawn or regenerate this entire document in our format. We have this script here that we created in the last stream in our scripts folder, and this script's whole purpose essentially is to help us to add tasks to our two different sprint files And one is like AI is actually really bad at appending files because a lot of times it'll try to rewrite the whole file, which takes more tokens instead of just appending directly. So if we have a script, it can just call the script for us, which will do the appending, which saves tokens, but also it's just faster. Okay, so I'll just tell it to manually clear the file and then use the script to add the items. Better now than later, while the file is short. I'm kind of questioning whether or not I should use Bun for the workflows. I'm only using it because I just like that it's faster for running scripts and stuff than Node. But I don't need it for anything in particular. I'm not building with it or anything like that. But I'm going to leave it. I'm just going to see what happens. Okay, so manually clear. Okay. Okay, I'll say read the tasks so you know how to add them back in. I don't know why Gemini is acting like it doesn't know what to do. But yeah, so I could have just had it archive the old one. Okay, so I'm going to help it out here. And I'm going to, let's see, what is our format? We don't need created date here. So let's just do some little metadata type stuff up here. Whoops. And we don't need, I don't like to keep track of dates in this. So then I'm going to take this here and I'll just say, I emptied the file. Now use that script to add these. Okay, let's see if it does its thing. Meanwhile, over in Cascade Land, Cascade Land's over here. Meanwhile, so update the sprint docs with correct QA workflow reference, link to the new CI/CD guide, clean up the duplicate bullet. Okay, and okay. It's going to move that file into our documentation for us, the actual image, which is cool. Meanwhile, over here in Gemini land, we have a script here that will run the backlog thing. Okay, so this is going to start running our scripts to make our backlog file. There's the first one. Cool. There's a second one. This is so cool. I really love how this is working. There's going to be some lint errors in here, but that's fine. As long as there are ones I can fix automatically, I'm cool with that. Okay. Cool. And now that these have their own unique UUIDs, it's going to be really nice because I can now have these consumable by tools. I can even have these synced up to some other tool like a task board. I like having my tasks in my repo though, because for AI, it is an extremely powerful way to work. Okay, so that part is done. I'm going to go ahead and make a separate commit for the backlog portion of this, since that is kind of its own thing. It's kind of a bit of a tangent for me. Okay. Now it's going to make a CI/CD workflow guide. This guide will live in the guides directory here. Oh, okay, so I see what's happening here. I can actually just have it make a fake UUID for this last one. Let's see, as long as it's in the same format, it doesn't need to be a real, actual UUID. We'll just make a fake one. Yeah, we'll just have it make a fake one. If you just like prompt it with some random gibberish, it'll do what it thinks. Let's just do 857, and it doesn't need to be like super unique, but it needs to be at least realistic. Okay, I think that's realistic enough. Okay, so now this has a UUID. That's cool. Okay, so it's going to save a memory node of the new CSCD guide, backlog item, blah, blah, blah. So okay, that's cool. And it updated our guide here to align with what we actually did. Okay. Yep. Cool. We can go ahead and shut down our Gemini. Oh, no. Actually, we got one more thing to do. I always forget. We have to wrap this stream up the right way, which is to update our change log and make a little blog post. I always try to do that at the end. Okay. So I did a safe commit to move the image here. That's cool. Okay, so I think that is done. And let's go ahead and commit this. We're committing it to the dev branch. So I'm not sure if this will work entirely, but like I said, this is going to be the cliffhanger for the next episode, essentially. Let's see. Okay, so I did finish this. I don't know why it's asking me to continue, but we're going to just leave it at that for now. And then what I like to do is I like to update my my log here. So I have a change log that I write to every time. In fact, I need to make a script that will append to this document just like I do for the sprint documents. But this time I'm just going to say, please read the changelog.txt. Then review the changes we made in our code the past, we'll just say 10 hours. I know it's been less than that, but last 10 hours. And make a new entry at the top that follows same formula as the other entries. Should be accurate to what changed and what we worked on. After we do that, I'm going to make a new LinkedIn post as well. Let's go ahead and set up a new file here. So this is 2025-08-21.md, and this will be a text. Okay, so this is going to make the new changelog entry. Okay. Re-added backlog task. Okay, cool. So that's accurate. And then I'll just say, now please read the last 5 LinkedIn.md posts. And make a new post that is related to what we did today and make it sound convincing and like me. And I always end up editing these, but it just gives me a starting point. And like I always say in every stream, I do this because there's no better way to get a post or to write one with AI than to have it actually in the environment where the content of the post is, because it just knows, like it's just going to know. And then the more I build up this history, it's going to have a clearer and clearer idea of how I like to write. I'm going to fix this, of course. I'm going to come back and add my personal touch, but it always gets me at least some starting point. Okay, so I'm going to tell it to please use the emojis I like and not new ones. Review the past posts and conform to their style with this content. Also, too, this is going to be on LinkedIn, so LinkedIn only takes plain text ASCII characters. No M dashes, please. M dashes are apparently very tacky now with AI. And keep it pretty simple and direct and fun. Keep it fun, please. I'm a funster. Okay. I don't like to use too many different types of emojis. I want to keep my emoji usage on brand. Wolf, checkered flag, flame. And then sometimes I do an alien. Sometimes I do the little spaceship. Sometimes I do a pointer finger. That's it. I don't like all this sparkles and other stuff. That's, yeah. Use whatever you want. Just keep it consistent. That's my advice. Okay. It's okay. I said it wrong. Not ASCII. Just plain text, please. It found a contradiction. ASCII characters or emojis are not ASCII characters. That's not what I meant literally, but I get it. I get it. I said it wrong. Okay, so let's see the update here. Too much flame, but let's read this. Another. So, what's up, Pack? Thanks all 55 of you for joining me in the latest Build in Public session on the official Primitive YouTube channel. Today was all about leveling up our development and releasing. Nope, that's not right. So I'll just say today we worked on building out the beginnings of a comprehensive and composable CI/CD pipeline for our application. Okay, so I don't need all this extra stuff in here. In fact, okay, I don't need all this stuff here. This is fine. I'll just say, let's just do something simple. I'm going to do a little flame here. Say, please check out, catch the stream here. And I'm going to grab the link, the actual link from our live show right now. I'm just going to pop it in there like this. I do this every single time I do a stream because this is also marketing. Oops. There you go. Okay, so I think that is pretty good. Short and sweet, cute, simple, and that's that. Let's go ahead and do one last commit message. And I think we are successfully good, Gucci, and poppin'. So thank you so much for joining us today with this stream. This was wonderful. It's a lot of fun. In fact, I think this might be the second largest live audience that I've had. I don't know if this will be how this will rank in terms of how many people watch the video in total. But I think the only time I've had a larger live audience was like the first episode of this, which was like 100 and something people. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah, I was like 100 people. Like, this is stressful. But 55 people is respectable. That means 55 people, all of y'all took out time from y'all's day to come hang out with me. That's love. I love that. Thanks so much. Okay, I'm going to get off of here, and I want you to go mind your business. I won't keep you any longer. And I will see you on the next stream. Don't forget to like, comment, follow, subscribe. Do all those things, and then I'll catch you on the next issue. But before you go, I just have one last thing to say. And that's